Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to go over the 25 books that I'd like to read in 2025. I see a lot of other booktubers posting videos like this, and so I thought I would join in on the fun. And I think this year I'm really focusing on series that I'm currently in the middle of because I don't want to get too far behind, and some of them I think I'm already a book or two behind. So the first book that I want to read in 2025 is Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear. I did actually pre-order this book because I read this usually every January. It's already halfway through January right now, so I might not get to this until February, but regardless, I always love these books. They're portal fantasy sort of books where you have these kids that don't quite feel like they belong in the world, and they find these doorways that lead them into different worlds that seem to more suit their personalities. I'm not going to go into what this specific book is about because we're pretty far in the series at this point and I don't want to spoil anything, but if you like kind of Alice in Wonderland type of vibes, but then these kids end up kind of in, not really an orphanage, but a home for these children once they come back to help them kind of adjust to the real world, I guess. It has a little bit of that like sort of academic feel, except they don't talk much about any classes or anything while they're in this kind of home. I guess it's kind of more of school, but they get into adventures and they each have their own home that they come from, and so a lot of the books we're learning about a new character, and so I am interested to see what we get in this one. The next book is Monstrous Volume 9, The Possessed. This is a great graphic novel series. I love it so much. The art in here is honestly just so beautiful. Even if it wasn't for the great story, I would buy it for the art. There's just something so nice about it, but it's very dark. Definitely has like a lot of war and whatnot in it. It's getting kind of political. Again, we're pretty far in the series at this point, so I don't want to spoil anything. But it follows our main character, who is kind of like part wolf, part human, and she finds out about her family and some links she has to some powers and artifacts, and I don't really want to say too much more than that, but it is an entertaining read. The next book is The Atlas Complex, again continuing with the series that I need to follow up on. I know this book came out a little while ago and I just never got around to it, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. I definitely need to read a summary of what happened in the previous two books though, because it's been a while since I read those and I don't want to jump in like forgetting everything that happened before this, but I'm excited to get back into that world. And then we have Vilest Things, which is the sequel to Immortal Longings. And I didn't realize this book came out, so I really need to get around to it. I really loved Immortal Longings. The magic system is very intriguing, where you can jump from one person's body to the next. And again, like I'm going to say for probably all of these books, I'm just excited to see what's going to happen. Now that we know our characters better, I'm intrigued to see where we go from there. Next we have Onyx Storm, which is of course in the Fourth Wing universe, which I think this series is called The Empyrean. And honestly, are these the best written books? No, but they're entertaining, and so I'll read it for that. They feel like they fly by really quickly while you're reading them, and like I said, they're entertaining. They're not the best written. Are the characters the best developed? No, but it's one of those that you kind of read as a refresher from some of the heavier fantasy books or other things that I'm reading. I think it's an interesting world. Typically I don't like books that have to do with dragons, but I don't mind this one. I'm not going to go too much into what this is about because I feel like at this point everyone already knows. Next we have Spy Family Volume 12 and Volume 13. I really enjoy this series. I started watching the anime, and when that kind of came to a close, although I'm pretty sure there's more episodes coming out, I started reading the manga, and now I'm trying to stay up to date on that. It's honestly just like a cute, wholesome story. The basis of it is that we have this guy who is he's a spy, basically, and he's on a mission that has to do with some political stuff that's happening in this world, and he needs to adopt a child in order to get close to this school where there is a guy that has really high political standing, and his sons go to that school, and so he adopts a child not knowing that she is telepathic, so she can read his thoughts. And of course, she's super into spies, and so when she finds out what he does for a living, she's always like shocked and wants to help him out, but he is completely unaware of the fact that she knows what he's thinking. And in order to make this whole thing look better, he ends up marrying kind of a random woman that he finds, and she turns out to be an assassin. So you have these unlikely characters that come together, and they're trying to complete their own separate missions in a way, but it's just a cute, wholesome book. Obviously there's danger and stuff involved, but our main character, Anya, is, I want to say she's like 5 or 6. She's pretty young. So she'd be in like kindergarten, first grade. And so you have a lot of this happening from a child's perspective, which just adds the wholesomeness to it. Then we have The Secrets of Wildwood, which is the sequel to The Letter for the King, which I just recently finished reading, I think last month. And I enjoyed that book. It was another one where it's just very wholesome. It has a lot to do with friendship, and this boy who wants to become a knight is about to, but ends up getting kind of side quested into taking a letter to a king of another country. And along his way, he makes a really good friend and encounters a lot of danger and trouble, but he manages to come through it all with his friendship intact and even strengthened, and I'm curious to see what happens in the next book. Next, we have Night, Bane, and Sky Shade, which are the sequels to Lightlark. I so enjoyed that book. It wasn't my favorite book in the world, if I'm being honest, but I like it enough that I'm gonna give the next 2 books a shot. But basically in that book, we have these different, I don't want to say races, I don't know what the term they use for it, but these different groups of people that all have special abilities, and they're all cursed in some way. And every, I think 100 years or something, or 50 years, there's a time frame I don't remember, they all come together into this one area to try to solve the curse and get it to go away, basically. And then we follow our main character, who turns out to have some secrets that we didn't know about. To be honest, the ending of that book was interesting and what really makes me want to read the next one. So I really hope I'm just not disappointed. The next book is Tidal Creatures. I don't remember the name of the series, but it's one of the books is called Middle Game. They're just kind of intriguing. To be honest, I don't exactly know what this book is about. If I remember correctly, the first and second book of the series follow different characters, and it seems like each one's going to cover a different element. So I'm just kind of curious to see where we're going to go from there. The next set of books that I'd like to read are all in the Witcher series. I started the series a while ago and I enjoyed it. The way that the story is told is kind of strange because it's just like a bunch of short stories put together is how it feels, but I do want to continue it. So I have I think 6 books on here from that series. So The Last Wish, The Sword of Destiny, Baptism of Fire, The Tower of the Swallow, The Lady of the Lake, and Season of Storms. Again, I'm not gonna really get too much into what these books are about. The show is on Netflix now, and there's games out, so I feel like a lot of people kind of have a general understanding, but it's just kind of a unique fantasy series. It's kind of fun to read about. To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it. I think I've only read 2 of the books, and I watched the first 2 seasons on Netflix. After that, I'd like to read The Color of Revenge, which is the next book in the Inkworld series, which I didn't even realize there was another book until one of my friends told me about it, and I'm really looking forward to that. This is a middle grade series that is about book characters kind of coming to life, and I remember watching the movie also as a kid and really enjoying it, so I do want to read this book. I feel like there will be some nostalgia to it as well. Then we have books from the Wayfarers series, A Closed and Common Orbit, A Record of a Spaceborne Few, and The Galaxy and the Ground Within. I just recently read the first book in this series and really enjoyed it. It really follows our characters closely and we get to know the crew really well. I will say it doesn't feel like it's super plot heavy. It felt very much like it's setting up for the next books, but I've also heard that this author really focuses on building her characters, which you can definitely tell. I feel really connected to the characters, and she did so in such a way that she wasn't just telling us about the characters, but through experiences we were learning about their cultures and who they were, which I really loved because this crew on the ship is made up of different species as well. So you're not only learning about the people themselves, but also the background that these people have within their species and their cultures and customs. So I'm just really excited to see what happens next. It felt, again, like I said, like a lot of setup, so I'm curious if the next book will kind of expand politically, because it kind of seems like it's going that way, but we'll see. Then we have The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels. This is a Janice Hallett book, and I've loved all of the books that she's written so far. I think I've given all of them, I want to say 4 stars, 4 or 5, somewhere in there. And she just does a really good job of writing mystery stories, but she doesn't just tell it in prose. She uses texts, emails, voice memos, news articles, things like that. And so I feel like her books, again, they just fly by really fast and they're intriguing and they're interesting. The one that I just recently read was The Examiner, and I really enjoyed that one. I didn't like the Twyford Code quite as much. I really love the Appeal and the Christmas Appeal, so we'll see how I feel about this one. To be honest, I don't actually know the plot of this book. I just know that I want to read it because it's Janice Hallett and I didn't read it when it first came out, so I'm hoping to get around to it this year. Then we have The Memory Police. This is one that I've actually had on my TBR for a really long time. I think Books and Lala might be the one who kind of brought it up to mind, but I feel like I've heard about it from a couple other people at this point as well. And it's another one where I can't fully remember the synopsis, but I do like going into books blind. If I can remember, there are certain objects or words or something like that that are being taken away from people and taken from their memory. And I think it's being done by like their government or something like that. Again, I don't fully know the synopsis, but it sounds intriguing, and I am trying to do the buzzword readathon, and The Memory Police works really well with one of the prompts, so I'm hoping to use it for that. Then we have Anna Karenina. This is a hefty book, one I bought a while ago for pretty cheap from a library like rummage sale situation, and heard a lot about it, but at the same time know absolutely nothing about it. That seems to kind of be a theme with me. I enjoy reading books that I know nothing about, but have good reviews. So I'm intrigued to get to this. I would like to read at least one classic a year. I'd like to read at least one classic a year. In 2024, I read The Scarlet Letter, so this is this year's book. I physically own it, so I don't have an excuse to read it other than it is quite chunky, so I feel like it's going to take me a little while to get through, but I'm intrigued. The last book is The House of My Mother by Sherry Franke, and this is written by a girl who was in a family who had a family lifestyle YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, and I believe it was run primarily by her mom, Ruby Franke, who is now in prison. There was a court case, I think sometime last year before last year, anyway, within the last year or two, a lot of stuff went down. I was kind of aware of this YouTube channel. I had seen a few videos and there were a few things in some of the videos that were a bit concerning. I think I watched primarily during COVID time when there wasn't a whole lot to do, and I've always just been kind of intrigued by other people's lifestyles. So it was just kind of interesting to see into this family that had 6 children, I think, and see what their life was like. And then stuff started coming out on social media where people were kind of accusing the parents of stuff, and then obviously things went to court. So Not great for the family, but it sounds like they're all doing better. I hope they're all doing better with their current living situations and whatnot. So I am intrigued to read that book and see what further insight she gives and kind of hear her side of the story, because it does seem that the channel very much was the mother's side of the story, because her mom was the one filming. I don't know who was editing, to be honest, but I don't know. Very, very interesting. I probably only read one biography or autobiography a year, if that, so this will probably be my one for that. Anyway, that is it. Hopefully I will get to all these books this year. My goal is 50 books, but I have, I think, mentioned it in a previous video, I am pregnant. And so I do kind of expect that once the baby is born, I probably won't be reading as much, or I might be reading more. To be honest, I'm not really sure, because I do hope to breastfeed, and so maybe I'll be reading a lot during that time, but I also might be completely brain dead from not sleeping and not feel like I have the capacity to read. So we will just kind of see how it all goes. If I can at least read these 25 books, I'll be happy with how this year went. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!